about the kind of things that they must do in order to redirect the dollars that we are entitled to back into the Black community on our terms. And there are a number of people who have signed on to that. But the fast food industry says this: y'all are absolutely right. We're selling you garbage. We know it. You're absolutely right. What we do is harmful. And we don't spend any money in a meaningful way in the Black community. But you know what? Black people love us anyway. Black people cannot give up a burger. They cannot give up a super shake. They say y'all can stand outside in front of the fast food restaurant with a microphone and tell people that this food is harmful. Black people will say, yeah, I know, but I won't come back again. They say, we ain't even worried about you. It's the same thing that the other ethnic groups say when they come into the Black community. They say, wow, look at these Black people. I mean, they are really silly. Look at what.
Tonight on a special edition of People Before Politics Sunday Rundown, we honor the life and legacy of Bob Law, a pioneer of independent Black radio, a mentor, and a voice that refused to be compromised. This is more than a tribute. This is a reminder of the responsibility we carry.
Okay, it should be going on now. Let me check my page. Oops.
Oh boy.
I believe we are live. Let me check.
No, I don't see it
Yes,
yet. Oh, yes, we
we
are.
are live. We are live.
Let me put this in here. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Freedom Friday.
How long is the interview?
Oh, about an hour. You know, it's just about an hour. If we get caught up, we could go a little longer, but we want to give you enough time because we got some questions to ask you, brother, about what's going on and the need. I got
it. You ready, D?
Yep.
All right, hitting record now. On this computer. Okay. Welcome. Good morning, all. This is Black Westchester presents Freedom Fridays with A.J. Woodson and Damon K. Jones. And our guest, today is legendary radio host and social justice advocate, Bob Law. I know there was social something. I actually just read it off your page on WBAI, and I was like, it said social something, and I just drew a blank real quick.
It's fine, you got it.
David, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, Bob. Man. I mean, it's an honor to have you on the show, have you on Zoom, so our listeners can hear and see you. Westchester County needs to hear what you have been talking, in my ear for the last couple of years, and I've been blessed to repeat a lot of things that you're saying, but I want to get them right to the source, and that's you. With everything that's going on, and the struggle of Black people. How do we use this moment to advance ourselves politically? And are we falling into the trap that we are just accepting anything just to say we're getting something, or is our collective unity we could actually make some change?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's an excellent question to start. How do we deal with this moment? First, it is to be clear put what is happening in a correct political and historical context, particularly in a political context and a historical context. As we look at what is happening right now, we are dealing with two viruses. COVID-19 is the biological virus.
Mm-hmm.
Then at the same time, there is a social virus that is as devastating on the Black community as the biological virus. When you look at the numbers of people who die on a daily basis from COVID-19, now the numbers have gone down, and the numbers are going down, at least here in New York. The numbers are going down, the numbers are going down. Fewer and fewer people are dying. However, on the social virus, the numbers of people who die from poverty on a daily basis are not going down. And those numbers are similar to the numbers of people who are dying from the biological virus.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we have learned is that the social virus, inequities, injustice, racism, has made us particularly vulnerable to the biological virus. So that as we start looking at cities carefully reopening, the Black community cannot simply reopen and go back to business as usual, along with everybody else. They're saying that we're in this together, which is not exactly true. But if we may have been affected by the virus, in that sense, we were in it together, but we're not coming out of it together. As people come out of the biological virus and begin to reopen, they are talking about measures that are going to help small businesses maybe restart, relaunch. They're talking about measures that are going to help students catch up. There are a number of things that are being done to help people compensate for their losses during the biological virus. The social virus, however, is still there waiting for us, and there's nothing being said or done to repair the damage that has been done to the Black community by the social virus. We will make a mistake if we come out of this pandemic and go back into the pandemic that was already there before this started. So our opportunity here is to come back, not to reopen the Black community, but to renew the Black community. We have to come out of this as a new people. We've got a new code of behavior. We need, and we have that. We have a new agenda, a new political agenda, a new political consciousness, a new way of dealing with each other, and recognizing that we as a people have the capacity to stabilize our community using the resources that we already control. But at the same time, there are people, the state, local governments, corporate America, they still have a responsibility to repair the damage that has been done by their systematic racism. We can't let them off the hook. That's where economic sanctions as a strategy comes in. But at the same time, when we look at our own capacity, we see that we have talent, money, training, genius. We have the capacity ourselves to do a great deal of repairing the damage done in the Black community. Black people are not responsible for the conditions in the Black community. By no means. Racism, exploitative capitalism, all of that is real. That is responsible for the conditions in the Black community. But it is our responsibility to change those conditions. No one else is going to come and do that. No candidate for office. Nobody is going to come and do that for us. Not Biden, not Sanders, certainly not Trump, or whoever they come with. It is going to be us using our resources to stabilize our own community, and we have the capacity to do that.
And I understand what you're saying, but why is it so hard for the Black community to even see that? If you have cities throughout the United States that you have Black elected officials running the entire city, but the city is still dying economically. Dr. Claude Anderson said that the Black community, after 5 o'clock, it shuts down because there's no Black businesses, and they're not creating avenues, for businesses. How do the people empower themselves to even understand their situation?
See, there's a lot of questions in that question. Keep in mind that the enemies of our people fight back. So we say some things that are really very clear, but then there are people that they can use. Trump has what is being called a disinformation campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Well, white supremacy has always had a disinformation campaign. We're saying one thing. They are putting out other ideas. They are propping up people and promoting other notions to confuse and push back against what people are saying that would empower the Black community. So you get people saying that Black Lives Matter, right? Mm-hmm. As we say Black Lives Matter, they will get Black people to say all lives matter, so that it confuses. It is designed to confound the oppressed. As we start to push for self-determination, mm-hmm. then they will get somebody to say that, no, we don't need to do for self. We need to find a way to cooperate with and associate with other people. We say we have to change the condition of our people. Our people don't want to be poor. They don't want to be poor anymore. They want to have businesses. They want to have successful businesses. They don't want to be poor. They want to earn it. They want to earn an income. They want to revitalize the economy in the Black community. But then there will be people who say, well, listen, here's what we really need. We need another kind of a poor people's campaign. We need to see if we can't make it easier for people to be poor. And now that sounds reasonable. We need to do something about affordable housing. So we have to create housing that poor people can afford. You can stay poor, but we're going to create housing that poor people can afford. See, that confuses people, because affordable housing certainly sounds reasonable, sounds correct. But what we really need is a move to change the condition of the people, so that instead of creating housing for poor people, you change the condition of poor people so they can afford whatever house they want. Exactly. So there's another strategy that operates right alongside our own strategies that, as Frantz Fanon pointed out, is designed to bewilder the oppressed. Wow. And so they have a strategy. White supremacy has a strategy as well to push back against the kind of things that we are saying. So when you talk about Black businesses, no, my favorite subject with you, instead of Black businesses, Black elected officials. When you talk about Black elected officials, how is it possible that there are so many Black elected officials in any given city, and the city and the condition of Black people in that city is still pitiful? Exactly. The easy answer is that those Black elected officials are incompetent. They are not at all what Black people need at this point in time. The Black elected officials are not Black elected officials generally. These particular Black elected officials that serve us in city after city, many of whom are in the Congressional Black Caucus. The Congressional Black Caucus is the largest caucus in Washington, D.C. What do they do? What's the benefit of there being a Congressional Black Caucus? They could disband the caucus. What does the caucus accomplish as a caucus on behalf of Black people? See, what happens is that the Black community is in need of a visionary, talented, spiritually grounded, really quality leadership at a time such as this. And the Black elected officials do not fit that description. That's because many of the people in the Black community, many Black people who are talented, who have integrity, who are honest, they don't want to be bothered with politics. They say that's dirty, and they are not wrong. The politics is dirty and slimy. All of that is true. But one of the reasons that it remains dirty is and corrupt is because the principled, visionary members of our community continue to ignore it, don't want to be involved in it. They think that all they have to do is vote. I talked to a sister yesterday. She said, looking at everything that's going on, well, we just got to vote. We got to vote. And I said, you got to vote intelligently. You can't ask Biden what's he going to do for education. You have to tell him what to do for education. And she said, yeah, right, yeah, but we just, I don't know. Yeah, you're right, but I don't know. I said, that's because you haven't given any thought to what's in your own best interest, have you?
Exactly.
But it's just so much going on. But no, she had not. And most people have not given any real thought to what is in our own best interest. So the cliche is you identify with the candidate who best represents your interest, and that's who you vote for.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you vote for the candidate who best represents your interest when you don't have any idea what your interests are? So there's an educational process, of course. In the book, Winner Take All Politics, they point out that you can't engage in politics as a spectator sport. Getting somebody elected to office. See, we think that once we get somebody elected to office, we have done our civic duty and we go on about our business. Other groups understand that getting people elected to office simply puts them in a position to enact policy. You want to get into a position to make policy. And so getting people elected to office is only step one. Right. Once they get elected to office, then we need a mechanism, a machine, an organization, that can provide platform and policy positions for the people who are in office. It's more for people who are in need of acquiring power. It is more than just voting.
Right. Now let's talk about a Black agenda. I've spoken about a Black agenda, and people act like, we don't need a Black agenda. They act like the Democratic agenda is Black people's agenda, when it's actually not, because, like you said, the sister doesn't know what her interest is. How do we get Black people to understand that every ethnic group has an agenda, and they work off that agenda, and they elect people based on their agenda, but Black people don't have a Black agenda, but they talk about voting, but they don't have a Black agenda.
See, that's one of the things that is used to bewilder Black people. We say a Black agenda. Then they've got these Black people who try to begin a different discussion, create a different narrative. Well, can you win with a Black agenda? Is a Black agenda possible? Is a Black agenda necessary? Right. What about an all people agenda, right? All of those that narrative is designed to bewilder. And you have to be politically naive to begin with to even enter into that kind of a discussion. They say a Black agenda as though a Black agenda is inappropriate. We have to get away from Black. Well, if you get away from Black, well, what you're going to have, a white agenda? And are you going to have an Asian agenda? The only time that people scrutinize whether or not they have a right to have an agenda is when it's Black people.
Exactly.
See, Black people, many Black people, see, the good news is this, to your question. Many Black people already understand that our needs and aspirations are real and legitimate and credible, and that our needs need to be addressed specifically. There are still people who are easily confused. There are still people but not many. People are beginning to understand. And so the Black agenda is coming from conscious Black people who just simply have to come together and are doing that and put the agenda, the platforms, for instance, when we look at people now talking about the police, and people are talking about police reform.
Mhm.
Right? Part of the police reform is defund the police,
Right.
or take some funds and put them over here instead of over here. Other people are talking about police reform. Yeah. But here's what. Your organization, for instance, has already made it clear. We don't need to do a whole lot of studies. We don't need to do any of those things. What we need to do is make certain kind of behavior criminal.
Mhm.
If that behavior is criminal and a policeman engages in that behavior, he should be arrested and imprisoned. If you were actually to enact that, all the rest of that stuff wouldn't be necessary.
Right. Exactly.
It is not complicated. There's a behavior that is criminal behavior, which you have pointed out. That if we just you don't like to focus on one thing, but one thing, we focus on the chokehold and people choking with their knee or a stick, people choking someone to death. That ought to be illegal.
Right.
So that when a policeman does it, there's no question about his judgment, or he thought his life was being threatened. If he engages in something that is illegal, he should be arrested and punished and penalized for that illegal action. If those kinds of rules, that legislation was passed, defunding the police, taking money out of the police and putting it in the NAACP and putting it in youth training programs, none of that that's fine. But actually, it is not. But but that's not the way to prevent police from engaging in
Right.
criminal behavior.
Right.
They engage in criminal behavior because they get away with criminal behavior.
Right.
So if you could make it illegal to engage in certain kinds of behavior, that would fix it.
Yes,
And the same thing is true with other kinds of, when we talk about economic development. Here's in New York State and New York City, New York, the comptroller has already admitted that the development contracts that are given out by the governor and the mayor are given out to about 2 to 3 white development corporations.
Mm.
In New York City, they give out, I think it's like $6 billion in development contracts on an annual basis. The comptroller has already acknowledged that those contracts are given out on a race-based basis.
Mm-hmm.
And that as a result of racism, Black developers are denied a share. They get about a 1% of those contracts. Well, if we're talking about economic revitalization, you don't have to, it's like Target has put out a paper saying the kind of things that they will do to help with the Black community, none of which has anything to do with economic revitalization. They're going to give money to the NAACP and give money to the Urban League and another group I never heard of. They're going to give free consulting services to small businesses. What if we want to do economic revitalization, economic development, what if the governor, the mayor, the president says, I'm going to give 30% of the government development contracts to Black developers?
Mm-hmm.
That would do a great deal
Mm-hmm.
toward economic revitalization.
Mm-hmm.
Not minority developers, which
Right.
is what they use now and wind up giving 1% to Blacks,
Mm-hmm.
but to Black developers. See, this stuff is not all that complicated. They know, it's like education. When you look at the failing schools in Black communities all over the country, and look at how terrible these public schools are, the response to the public schools is to create a study, a special academy, or kind of other programs, talk about how wonderful these special academy programs are, all these experimental approaches to education. They're pretending that they don't know how to educate children.
Right.
They're educating children all over the world. There's not a need for a study or special academy or special program. We know how to educate children. They are pretending that now that we have to educate Black children, we need special academies, special approaches, we need special studies, we need special schools. All you have to do is implement a for real curriculum, the same way they do in white schools in the white suburbs right here in New York City, in New York State.
Right.
So all of this stuff, it is what is necessary is another level of visionary leadership that has integrity. That's where a major problem is. We've got to replace the mediocre leadership that is still trying to position itself in front of the Black community. Their role has historically been to contain the Black community, not to advance the Black community. You know, we struggled to get Black people back in the 80s with Jesse. We struggled to get Black people on the board of major corporations. Jesse would go in there and say to Pepsi, how many Blacks on the board? How many vice presidents? None, 2, 3, 1, none. So we made that a struggle. Now they sought to put Blacks on the board and created public affairs kind of jobs and created jobs and put Black people in those jobs. Those Black people assume the responsibility to protect the corporation from us. So that when we call for a meeting with the Black people who work for McDonald's, the Black people who work for McDonald's come and meet with us, and they push back against what we're saying we would like to see the fast food industry do. They came on behalf of the fast food industry. These are Negroes whose jobs were created by our tree shaking.
Right.
We shake the tree, they get the job, and then they act on behalf of the corporation rather than on behalf of the people who made their jobs possible.
Exactly.
So, and now, after Obama, there's an article in the Sunday Times about how corporate America has failed Black America. And what they're talking about is how many people they have hired and not hired. And they pointed out that now, after eight years of a Black president, there's 4 Black people on the board of the 5 out of 500, the Fortune 500 corporations. 4 Negroes on the board, on boards. That was supposed to be, the Black president was supposed to represent progress.
Right.
Look at Trump. And those people on the board don't really represent progress anyway. But look at Trump, who is appointing judges and people all throughout the system.
That's right.
So he is saying that when he's gone, the system is going to be right of center for the next few generations.
Absolutely.
How many people did Obama appoint? Where was Obama? And did not even fight with them in his last year in office to appoint a Supreme Court judge. They said he couldn't do it, and the Supreme Court judge vacancy opened up at the beginning of his last term.
Right.
And they said, no, that's his last term. He can't do it. That's absurd. But he accepted that.
Right.
Telling you, we have to have a courageous, visionary leadership with talent and integrity. That kind of leadership exists in our community. We've got to encourage those people to become more engaged in providing political leadership, not just participating as a spectator.
Right. Bob, now, when you say that, shouldn't the community be able to finance that politician?
Yes.
Because you put him out there, he's going to have to go to the same sources as the other Black politicians.
Yes.
You know, go ahead.
No, I'm saying, well, the answer to that is yes. Not only is it yes, we can easily afford to do so.
Right.
See, the community, the poor Black people, just poor folk, we so pitiful. Ask Nike if Black people are poor.
Right.
Right.
See, ask all these people ask the people who own the beauty supply stores in the poor neighborhood.
Right.
Ask them, are Black people poor? When we look at these small businesses, not just in the Black community, but the small businesses, what they call Main Street, small businesses, restaurants, shoe stores, clothing stores, just the small businesses, up and down up and down Main Street. Those businesses make, on average, we have been trying to do the research, we've been trying to get some numbers. Those small businesses, when they talk about them being the backbone of the local community economy, those small businesses, those little stores, they generate about $500,000 a year. Small Black-owned businesses generate about $200,000 a year. That's why they keep going out of business.
Right.
But the business, as Tony Brown pointed out way back, those small businesses benefit from two incomes, theirs and ours. We only spend about 2% of our money with our businesses in our own community.
Right.
We only spend about 2% of our money in the Black community. If we begin to redirect our money, and see, that's where that confusion comes in. Black people say, I'm not going out of my way to support no Black business, and Black people say, that restaurant, that Black restaurant, the food is good. It is good, but it's a little bit too salty. There's something in there, just the Negro consumer syndrome. At one point, they say that there's something, that food is good food, but or my doctor tells me to be careful in anything. The prices are too high. It is true that there's a new education process necessary. So, and like one of the things that we're doing is launching on Monday night, launching a national series of manhood training classes that'll be like this, as a webinar being offered around the country, offering it to people, churches, schools, youth organizations. And then along with that, because we need to change our behavior, we need to become a new people. We need to get back to where we were. There's a gospel song that says, Lord, lift me up to where I belong. Not, Lord, lift me up to where I've never been. Lift me up to where I belong. And so we want to get to that point. And we want to, and many of us want to begin to promote a lifestyle that is acceptable in the sight of God. We want to get back to Million Man March. Scripture said, if my people who are called by my name but humble themselves and pray, turn from their evil ways and seek my face, then they will hear from heaven and I will heal their land. We want to get back to a life, life according to the will of God. So there's a code of behavior. But then secondly, there's an economic code of behavior that also is being rolled out and being taught. We need to teach it. We need to do webinars like this and teach the economic code of behavior. And see, when there's industries like the Black hair care industry that we ought to own. One of the reasons we ought to own it is because all of the money comes from us.
Right.
There's only Black people buying Afro Sheen. Right? All of the money in the hair care industry comes from us. However, we don't own it. And when people come along, when the Asians came into the Black hair care industry, can't be mad at the Asians that they took over the Black hair care industry. The Asians said, they came in and they said, don't buy this product, Dudley and Bronner Brothers. That's Black owned. And they said, here, buy this one. This is a good product, buy this one. And our product is cheaper. Well, the women in the hair salon said, oh, your product is cheaper? Well, then I'll buy yours. That's just good business to get the cheaper product. The Asians said, no kidding. These people think that it's good business to buy the cheaper product, even if it means putting themselves out of business, even if it means shutting down their own enterprise. They think that it's good business to go for the cheaper product. They don't consider what happens to your dollar after you spend it. Right. We can tell them that we'll sell it to them cheaper. They'll buy from us. Once we own the market, we'll raise the price. They no, they said, wow, look how silly these people are. How can we help but take this business, take this industry? They're
Right.
throwing it at us.
Right.
We have to begin to educate our people. See, Black people do think that it is good business to get the lowest price. There's no other ethnic group engaged in any enterprise anywhere in this country or in the world that thinks that the deciding factor is the lowest price. They all consider the vertical integration that Claude Anderson talks about. If they buy it and who they buy it from, who they distribute it from, how that whole vertical integration process works, and their own people are plugged into that process. So they are manufacturing the product, they are distributing the product, they are opening the stores that sell the product. They are vertically integrated as they should be. So the economic code of behavior seminars, webinars have to start now as well, and we have to begin to redirect our dollars back into our own community in a meaningful way.
I got a question. This is a question from Alex Harrison. He says, but why not learn business from the Asian instead of seeing it as competition?
Okay, that's the answer to that. Okay, right, of course. See, it's not a that's part of being bewildered. It's not a question of seeing them as competition. All businesses are in competition. Why not see them as competition? Everybody is in business. That's what you say to Coca-Cola. Why not learn business from Pepsi as opposed to seeing that as competition? See, it's not sensible. Of course they are competition, but you can learn business from them or whoever else. Why not study and learn business? And why not learn instead how to effectively conduct business? Why not study powernomics? Why not read Dr. Anderson and find out what I'm talking about when I talk about vertical integration in an economic sense?
Right.
Learn business for real, and then don't feel and don't be and understand that competition is, that's what I said early on. I'm not mad at the Asians. Can't be mad at the Asians because they came in and became very competitive. Certainly, they have a right to do that, and we have a right as well. Don't have to hide it. Don't have to be, why not see them as competition? They are the competition.
Right.
So is everybody else.
Right.
And so see the competition, and what you really need to do is to become more competitive yourself.
What you mentioned the manhood training. You mentioned manhood training. With this whole defunding the police department, how can Black people talk about defunding the police department and we don't keep our community safe? You can't. I mean, we're not even securing our own community.
Got to always be clear. Always be clear. It is two separate issues. You have to make a distinction. What the police do over here, that is violent and criminal. That's what they do. And they have to be held, they and everybody else, they have to be held accountable for their aggression against Black people. That's separate and apart from what we do in the Black community. What we do in the Black community does not give other people a right to kill us. Doesn't give other people a right to engage in violent criminal behavior in the Black community. Because they have a thing called Black on Black crime, they used to call it. But that's a term that was coined just to describe the contradictions in the Black community. In the white community, that crime is so prevalent, they call it organized crime.
Exactly.
And they're all up through everything. They got drugs, prostitution, extortion, murder.
Right.
I mean, you see that guy, what's the last gangster movie, the guy who paints houses. Talk about the guy who murdered Jimmy Hoffa. and they talk about in those, so people have read all the books and they now know how deep and pervasive crime is in the white community as well. But that doesn't cause policemen to go in there and kill unarmed white children. So it's a different
They know
issue.
better.
I'm sorry?
No, I said they know better. That's
right.
They know.
But then there is the issue of the contradictions in the Black community. And the contradictions in the Black community, that's our responsibility. Again, we did not create the conditions. We didn't create the conditions. We didn't create the unemployment. We didn't create the dysfunctional schools. We did not create the public school to prison pipeline. But it is our responsibility to correct that, to change those conditions. Now, understand, when we have moved to repair that kind of damage in the past, the Black Panther Party. Black Panther Party offered young people, join this. Don't be in the Crips. Don't be in the gangbangers. Be in the Black Panther Party. Inspired the Young Lords, a little street gang where Felipe came from, up in the upper, where they from, Washington Heights. They became the Young Lords Party. At the point where we began to create something that could challenge that behavior. Look how I just saw a documentary on TV last night. Look how the police and the FBI came down on the Panther Party to destroy it, declared war on the Panthers. I was just looking at that, so I wonder why they don't do that to the Crips. Wonder why they don't come down like that on the Bloods and whatever other gangs there are. Wonder why when police come into a neighborhood and choke somebody on the corner and beat somebody up, they never look over their shoulder, wondering if any of the Crips or the Bloods are going to show up and stop them from doing what they're doing. They seem to have a relationship with the gangs in the Black community. However, it is our responsibility, and it's not a responsibility that we have ignored. Look at all the work that is being done. Look at Erica Ford and the Love of My Life. Look at Dennis Muhammad and the Peacekeepers. Look at the gang summits that the minister has convened. Look at all the work, the churches who are marching in the street and trying to organize young people and young men and take them out of the streets and out of the gangs. It's not that we have ignored it. No. However, as we work hard to suppress it, white supremacy keeps those guns flowing into the community. White supremacy keeps the guns. White supremacy keeps killer cops rolling through the community, keeps creating volatile circumstance that feeds into this self-destruction. Look at the music. Look at the lyrics, and look at the people who are celebrated as talented. Cardi B and these people are celebrated as being talented. And listen to their lyrics. They're talking about killing each other. And hope your mama's in the house. I'm gonna run up in your house and shoot. I got a shotgun. I have a shotgun, I'm shooting, all I see is niggas running. What kind of lyric is that? And they've got, look at the music that is still promoting death, hatred of Black women, hatred of Black people, murder and killing. All of this is still going on at the same time. So we've got, that is one of the reasons for the manhood training. We have to begin to talk to our, not just young boys, young men, we have to begin to talk to everybody really about a different code of behavior that helps us to protect and sustain ourselves in this hostile environment. But that is, whoever said that is right. What about the violence in the Black community? Right, we are, and many people are addressing that.
Right, because I mean, we need to be able to secure our own community, like every other ethnic group.
Yeah.
You know?
But see, every other ethnic group is not under attack like us. Yeah. You know, all the other ethnic groups that have got contradictions in their community. They have gangs in their community. They have gangs that operate only in their community. You know, they tell me that in Chinatown, there's Asian gangs and they terrorize the people who live in Chinatown. They don't go to Bensonhurst.
Right.
They don't go to Howard Beach. They stay in Chinatown. It's happening everywhere, just like in the Black community. You know, the gangbangers in the Black community, they don't leave the Black community either. They right here in the Black community. So, but other ethnic groups don't have the same ongoing aggression against their people the way that we do. And they don't have the history of oppression that we do. You know, they didn't, they came to this country and are still coming to this country with some education, with some money, with an agenda, with a plan. You know, we came up from slavery. There was a time when it was illegal for a Black person to be able to read. You know, we've come from another kind of a deficit. We've come from a situation where there's no where we have no legal standing. You know, people need to read Michelle Alexander again and look at how we have no legal standing. You can't win in court. The courts have been so structured. So we have our challenge is different. And what we really need to understand is that given our challenge, we need to be a little more proud of what we have done when you consider what we are up against. We haven't completed it. We have been confused by competing agendas, you know, but at the same time, given what Black people are up against, Black people have accomplished a great deal of correcting the problems and the contradictions in the Black community. But one of the reasons that the work is still necessary is because we are not in it by ourselves. They keep coming at us. They keep coming. You know, we say elect a Black mayor. We elected a Black mayor, David Dinkins. That was in 1990. I filed a class action lawsuit against the Board of Ed in 1990. 9 school children signed off on it on behalf of the schools, the children in the New York City public schools. We are ready to demonstrate in court how this white supremacist curriculum that is being implemented in the New York City public schools is doing harm to the intellectual development of Black students, to their identity, their sense of self-worth and value. David Dinkins, the Black mayor, through his attorney, R. Peter Sherwood, blocks the lawsuit and does not allow the children to have their day in court. We didn't name the Board of Regents in the lawsuit because Adelaide Sanford was there. Regent Sanford said, I wish you had named the Board of Regents so I could plead guilty. You all are exactly right. The Black mayor, on behalf of the teachers union and on behalf of white supremacy, moved to block the lawsuit so that we would never be able to get in court and argue our case on behalf of the children in the public school systems. It keeps coming back to leadership with integrity and vision. We can't get around that.
You still mute. Take your mute off.
Who, mine?
I hit your mute button by mistake. You
got any questions, AJ?
Now I'm sitting here, you know, there's sometimes, and I'm the one that runs my mouth on the radio show the most, and I ask all the questions. There is sometimes when you need to sit and listen. You know what I'm saying? And sit and take in. When you have, one of the things I always said, you know, we let a lot of our elders pass without sitting with them and picking their brains and getting a lot of that knowledge from them. And that's one of the mistakes that I've seen. And like I've even made it. There's certain people in our community that have passed and they took a wealth of information and I had access to them and I didn't listen. I didn't sit and listen with them. So I've been sitting and listening. I've been taking it all in. I'm taking it all in. But what for you know, we know some of these problems and stuff. Where do we go from here? Mm-hmm. If you try to put a good spin, you know, a positive spin towards the end, where do we go? Any advice, you know, to the people that are listening? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, we got about 10 more minutes, Bob. So any advice for the people of Westchester?
I'm gonna do it in less than 10 minutes. Y'all have some very good questions. I don't know if the answers are as good as the questions.
Oh, it was.
You have some really good questions. Beyond protest is where we have to go. We have to go beyond protest. We have to begin to think like that. Beyond protest. We are in the street. And that is a legitimate expression of anger and frustration, and it is necessary. But we have to go beyond protest to the acquisition of power, to the acquisition of policy-making positions. Coming out of Ferguson, Illinois, and Michael Brown protests, coming out of there, brothers and sisters in St. Louis decided that they needed to have, that they needed to acquire power. The sister coming directly out of the protest was elected to the city council. That sister who was elected to the city council coming directly out of the Michael Brown protest, a week ago, she was elected mayor of Ferguson, Missouri. We have to do that. We have to look at other places as well that we get into positions of power and the ability to set and make policy. Secondly, we have to move toward, we're saying no justice, no peace. Well, we want to now begin to say no justice, no profit. We want to begin to use our dollars strategically, and economic sanctions is a political tool. When we look at the corporations, the New York Times article about how corporate America has failed the Black community. However, the Black community has not failed to deliver its money to corporate America. One of the industries that we have not failed is the fast food industry. And the fast food industry sells toxic food to the Black community. They have targeted the Black youth in particular for the consumption of toxic food that causes type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, any number of things. That's all been documented. Don't take my word for it. Google fast food industry and Black consumers, or African Americans and fast food, or fast food industry and Black youth. Google it. Look at the studies that are still being done that document how the fast food industry is exploiting the Black community and selling food into the Black community that is actually doing harm. It's part of what made us so vulnerable to COVID-19, was that diet of fake burgers and pizzas and all that sugary, syrupy drinks, all of those things that are being marketed by the fast food industry. So one of the things that is happening now, and it's going to be announced on June 19th, let's say it here, is an economic sanctions campaign that targets the fast food industry and says to Black people, stop buying fast food. And now, we will begin to talk to the industry about the kind of things that they must do in order to redirect the dollars that we are entitled to back into the Black community on our terms. And there are a number of people who have signed on to that. But the fast food industry says this: y'all are absolutely right. We're selling you garbage. We know it. You're absolutely right. What we do is harmful. And we don't spend any money in a meaningful way in the Black community. But you know what? Black people love us anyway. Black people cannot give up a burger. They cannot give up a super shake. They say y'all can stand outside in front of the fast food restaurant with a microphone and tell people that this food is harmful. Black people will say, yeah, I know, but I won't come back again. They say, we ain't even worried about you. It's the same thing that the other ethnic groups say when they come into the Black community. They say, wow, look at these Black people. I mean, they are really silly. Look at what they do. And so there's work to be done, but economic sanctions as a political strategy is the tactic. And you can believe that there are going to be Black people who say, well, there's no point in doing that. They don't care about our dollars. They're making all their money overseas, anything other than self-determination. But the numbers of Black people who are reluctant to move in the interest of Black people are in decline. More and more Black people are hearing, more and more Black people have been awakened and have made a commitment now that we are awake to stay woke.
You could sign us. You could sign us on to that, Bob. I know we had that conversation before, and when you were meeting with the fast food restaurants, man. So you could definitely sign us on to that. I'm for that. And it's funny that you said that. I put up a post on Facebook that I didn't see any McDonald's burn down, and they kill us every day, right? and Black people actually defended McDonald's.
Yeah.
They you know, and you know, I was shocked that they actually defended McDonald's. And I asked one of the girls, I said, you know, show me where eating McDonald's reduces high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. I could show you where eating plants does, but show me where McDonald's doing. And she never responded. You know, and then they make it an economic thing. You know, poor people can't eat and this and that, but they could buy Jordan shoes. She buys McDonald's, but her teenage person that she's buying McDonald's has $600 shoes on their feet. You know,
when you respect yourself, truly respect yourself, see that there's a distinction to be made between respect yourself and respect for others. There are people who respect others, who will say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, hold the door open, get up when a woman enters the room. There are people who respect others, but in their heart of hearts, they don't really respect themselves. So they are willing to put poison in their body. They're willing to do things to their body that they wouldn't do to their car. They're willing to put toxic food in their body. They're willing because they don't really respect themselves. You ought to be able to go to a person and say, here's the study, look at it. This study points out this stuff is not real food. It's 80% water and bone and tissue and connective tissue. It's not real food. It's about 2% meat in these burgers. And it's causing high cholesterol. It's causing obesity. That ought to be enough. It's causing high blood pressure. How dare you continue to feed it to your children? Do you not love your children? What's up with that? Yeah. And you keep pretending that this food is wholesome and worthy, and you know it's not. Right. You have to begin to ask people like the sister you're talking to, what's up with you? Do you love your children or not? How are you making excuses for feeding your children food that every study over the last 10, 20 years has already documented is doing harm to your children physically? It is doing harm, and still you are making excuses for it and are feeding it to your children. How backward, how silly, how awful is that? That there are people who are making those kinds of excuses. And if you talk about McDonald's, it was the employees at McDonald's who first picketed McDonald's, asking consumers to stop shopping here until they pay us a minimum wage. The employees, when people say that, you know, people who work there are going to be hurt, the employees say, we're hurt now.
Right.
Could y'all help us instead of come flowing in here? And Black folks say, no, I'm coming into McDonald's. I'm going to eat this food. No, I don't care. No matter what it is, it tastes good. But I think that we have to really drive it home. How is that possible? How is it possible with all that we now know about how harmful fast food is? How is that possible that there are Black adults who are still feeding that food to their children?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's just crazy. I always said, I told Damon, I said, we're also the only people that will go to a funeral and then feed the people there the food that killed the person that just went to the funeral. That sold all the food that they ate and had, you feed that to the people that came here. You know,
see, we're not making it. We're not connecting it. We're not putting it all in the proper context. And on a very real level, it is a question of how much do you genuinely cherish your children? Because we tolerate too much. We're putting children in a public school system. You know very well that that public school system is destructive and detrimental. There are parents who are taking their children out of public school and homeschooling because they love their children.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a struggle to homeschool, but you've got a whole lot of parents who leave their children in public school knowing very well that those public schools are doing harm to their children. Do you not love your children? Do you not cherish your children? That's why people come through our community and say, we can't help but take advantage of these Negroes.
Exactly.
You know, they won't protect themselves. They won't work in their own best interests. We can't help but take advantage. And so, and like we said earlier, we're not mad at them. They are looking out for themselves. They're trying to be as competitive as they can be. That's what we need to do. Become more competitive with and so that we are able to survive in the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're coming to the close. I don't want to take up a lot of your time because I know you're very busy. Let everybody know you can be heard every Saturday on WBAI. What's
Right.
it, from the streets?
It's From the Street with Bob Law. We're trying to get on there for 2 hours, on for an hour, from 10 a.m., from 11 until noon. But it's on BAI at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning. BAI is 99.5 FM. And we're there. We have some good shows. We've had some good guests. This is Black Music Month. Trying to talk to Stagger Lee this Saturday.
Okay.
Stagger Lee said yes, he will be there. And so I'm trying to, but now I'm calling him back. I can't find him. But if everything goes through, Lloyd Price is going to be with me this Saturday.
Okay.
And tomorrow morning, and he's got some remarkable stories about the music business.
Oh yes.
In the music business. But beyond that, I want to do we're having plenty of political conversations, and we're going to begin to talk about economic sanctions as a political strategy. We're going to start trying to drive that home. But this being Black Music Month, I want to talk about music and what really happened. What really happened to Black radio and to the Black music industry. Many people, particularly people who work in Black music and Black radio, have no idea. I wanted people to become familiar with the Harvard report, which was called A Study of the Rhythm and Blues World. I want people to understand how the Black music industry was deliberately and systematically taken over. And we have a copy of the Harvard report. And just the kind of decisions that Black people made to go from being Black to urban. And we just don't we just don't quite understand where we fit in a political, social context in this society. And as a result, we are often exploited.
It's interesting. We had this conversation, you and I, before. That one of the first things they tried to do is take the word Black out. A lot of people told me that, you know, we would reach a larger audience and we would probably be more successful if we take Black out of Black Westchester and, you know, just be, you know, something else.
Yeah, it is a failure to place ourselves in the proper social context. If it's like with Black radio, if you want to talk to Black Westchester, because Black Westchester has its own needs, has its own identity, has its own political, social circumstance in this society. And so there's a need to talk to Black Westchester. You don't need to talk to a larger audience. Other people can listen in if they want to hear, but you have a need to talk to Black Westchester. So when people say you can reach a larger audience if you take Black out, why do you need to reach that larger audience with your message for Black people? want to make sure you take your message to Black people. But in the case of Black music radio, Black music is so powerful and so entertaining and so influential that people all over the world listen to and enjoy Black music. When WBLS was the #1 Black radio station, well, the #1 radio station in New York City, it was called the Total Black Experience and Sound. Everybody listened. That's how powerful our music is. White people listen, Asian people, Latino people listen, Black people listen. But BLS was delivering its message to the Black community. It said to the ad industry that I can deliver, I have all the Black people in the city listening to me. Therefore, I want X amount of dollars for my advertising. They had that kind of leverage. But the owners then said, we don't want to be able to deliver all the Black people. We don't want to own the marketplace. We want to deliver some white people as well. So rather than own our niche of the market, we want to compete with the other 90 radio stations in New York City. And we want to see if we can deliver that white audience as well. And so they gave up targeting the Black audience and went for the white audience. But they attracted white audience when they were programming Black music. That's what everybody enjoyed. But the owners, being middle-class Black folk, had no idea of what it was that everybody enjoyed. They wanted to be accepted by whites. So they gave up their niche. And then when BLS became #1, and the ratings are so biased that the only way that they give out what they call diaries, and they give them out mostly in white communities. So for a radio station to be #1 in New York City, you have to have a lot of white people listening, because the diaries are given out mostly to white people. So for BLS to be #1, they had to have a lot of white people who were also listening. Even when BLS was #1, the ad agency still said, we're not going to pay you like we pay the white stations #1. We're still going to pay you what we want you to have. And so giving up your identity and giving up your strength did not endear you to whites. They just said, again, they said, wow, look at these people. They own the Black market. They could dictate to us what we must pay, but they want to give that up. Right. They want to deliver an audience to us that we already get from the other 90 radio stations in this city. They don't want to own their market. They want to be assimilated and accepted by us. So what can we do? We can't help but take advantage of people like that.
Right. Absolutely. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you?
No, I got to go.
All right. Well, we thank you for your time. We thank you for taking the time with us.
Thank you, Brother
it's
Bob.
Always a pleasure, my brother. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. Now, this is all brand new for me. I don't know how to get off Zoom. So you gotta...
This Monday at 8 p.m. on the Publisher's Desk, we're having a conversation most people avoid, but everybody is living through. The attack on the Black family. Nobody wants to talk about it. I'm sitting down with Andre Harrison, host of Harrison Family Values, to talk about family, masculinity, marriage, and what happens when structure disappears. This is not about opinions. This is about results. This is a conversation a lot of people avoid, but it needs to be had. We're breaking down what happens when family structure collapses, when roles are confused, and when femininity is no longer protected or properly understood. And in that confusion, our young girls are being left exposed in ways that should concern all of us. When a culture stops protecting its own, especially its daughters, it becomes a crisis. We're also talking about faith, responsibility, and what it really takes to rebuild strong families in this generation. If you're serious about solutions, not just talk, this is a conversation you need to hear. The Publisher's Desk Monday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Don't miss it. It's going to be Blacktastic. Thank you for watching another Blacktastic episode of the People Before Politics show. Sunday Rundown, powered by Black Westchester Magazine. We appreciate every single one of you who tuned in, commented, shared the stream, and joined the conversation. Your support is the reason independent Black media continues to thrive and speak truth without fear. Every week, We show up to bring clarity, accountability, and real community insight to the stories that matter. And you show up with us. Whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, or X, we want you to know that your voice, your engagement, and your presence make this platform stronger. Thank you for rocking with Damon K. Jones, AJ Woodson, and Larnez Kinsey as we break down the issues that many outlets ignore. And thank you for supporting a space where Black thought, Black leadership, and Black truth-telling still matter.